90 just after 9 p.m. last night. Traffic was slow for some time as crews cleared the accident scene. No word on injuries. Traffic flows again at this hour. Southeastern Connecticut casino revenues continue to recover from the pandemic. Last month, slot machines rolled up $36.5 million in income at Mohegan Sun. That's a 19% increase over the $30.5 million it kept the same month the previous year. The casino hasn't seen numbers like this since 2019. Similar numbers apply for gaming in Massachusetts, too, officials say. State police are looking into what led to a crash late Monday night in Chester on the northbound side of Route 9. Officials tell reporters at least one vehicle was involved in the collision. Injuries reported. The roadway is closed for some time between exits 6 and 7. It's cleared now. Crash investigators continue their work on the case. In Charlestown, members of the community have stepped up to help a Rhode Island state trooper and his family, raising $65,000 in under 4 days after they lost their home at a Thursday afternoon fire. State Trooper Lawrence Scott, his wife, and the couple's 2 children were displaced in the blaze. Friends, family, and well-wishers have set up a GoFundMe page.
Managing Director of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, the one and only Tony D joins me each and every Tuesday to chat about, whatever's on Tony's mind, man. And every once in a while, by the way, maybe a couple times during the course of a show, you may hear some fatherly advice. It is a stream of conscience that comes out of Tony D. We always thank you for that. Tony, I started out, first of all, good morning, and how are you?
Morning, and proud to be among everybody.
I started out talking about Afghanistan and Biden, and I know, you're no fan of Biden, but it's remarkable to me that somebody can get to that position of government authority, the highest position.
Yeah, we've got the new standard of government, which is not only am I stupid and I don't care and I don't pay attention and I have all the spin doctors like, the multi-million-dollar machine we have in this state, but however stupid I am, I'm doing the right thing, and I'm doing the right thing because I think I'm doing the right thing, and the rest of you can go play with the top in the sand. But this is, and again, and we've talked about this, the fish rots from the head back. And this week, I started to look at the state marijuana bill.
Ooh.
And, and this is the whole thing. We've got our lovely government who wants to keep us safe from COVID. Believe me, I am not minimizing any disease whatsoever. But this is the kind of thing, like Howard Cosell used to say in the wide world of sports, while you were away, this is the kind of thing that's happening in our local government. The bill itself is 300 pages. It fosters something known as a social equity council, or the SEC. Connecticut has its new SEC. Now, the logic in this bill, we talk about safety, we talk about health, we talk about education, is to legalize the most heavily damaged areas ravaged by drugs. Now, the way you're going to do that is you're going to, and I want to read this twice, you're going to put $50 million in the worst areas to bring forth the positive economics of drugs in the inner city. I'll say that again. You're going to get $50 million to bring forth the positive economics and drugs into the inner city in those areas most ravaged. Now, this whole SEC, Social Equity Council, guess where it falls? Under our DECD, Department of Economic and Community Development. Spending millions of dollars, we're still 50th in economic development in the country. This whole social equity thing, that's only Connecticut. Massachusetts doesn't do it. Do we consider anywhere, any place, the reality of where we're at in our state and cities and what our cities are like or whatever? Do we consider at all that, we've got major public safety issues that no one can solve? We hear the same really kind of inane, suggestions from people on both sides of politics. And you put all this together, Lee Elci, and we are headed down one huge rabbit hole, and nobody says a word. This is all okay. We're going to get to the economics of this in a moment, but I'd like to get your thoughts.
So, it reminds me I mean, it was worse back in the 80s when they, attacked the crack like crazy and sent people to jail for the rest of their lives. I'm not saying that crack is a good thing, but, crack was treated differently than cocaine, and it was in the inner cities, and everyone got hooked on it, and it certainly sent everybody back probably a generation or two. Now you're going to put this, again, to me, I mean, it's
going to fix all our problems.
Exactly, but you're putting it back in these neighborhoods where people are going to get hooked on this stuff again. And nobody is seemingly saying anything about this. Now, again, obviously they're trying to sugarcoat it by saying, well, if you're a certain skin color or you're a certain demographic, you get first access to having these marijuana dispensaries, so you're going to get rich. Great, it's super. But still, you're putting it, to me, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, Tony, but you're putting it in neighborhoods that it's just going to be a burden on that neighborhood eventually, isn't it?
It is brainless. Now, the thing is, I go back, a kid in Stamford, Connecticut, the whole Main Street side when I was growing up, pre-Lyndon Johnson urban renewal, was gin mill after gin mill after gin mill after gin mill. A couple of theaters, maybe a couple of diners or something like that. Now, Stamford did the stupidest urban renewal they possibly could have done, but the one thing they did right was they got rid of all the gin mills. When they got rid of all the gin mills, businesses came. Here, we're quote-unquote going to take that, and it's like, well, it worked then, why won't it work now? Well, the real reason is because, you had people back then had enough sense to sober up. Here, we're just going to keep intoxicating them more or, making them more impaired. And we're going to have, this is going to be wonderful. I mean, really? I mean, let me just give you some numbers. The Office of Fiscal Analysis of the state of Connecticut, the nonpartisan Office of Fiscal Analysis, who honestly I think might be doing some of this stuff, they're quoting $70 million in tax revenue in 5 years coming from this. Now, notwithstanding all the social destruction, I mean, you're going to be eating into a lot of that just trying to keep this thing together. But if we used a 20% tax rate to get the revenue, and I was doing this last night, it was hysterical. Kathy was saying, I can't believe we're having this conversation. At a $300 cost per ounce of marijuana, and you get 60 joints per ounce, and you've got 2.5 million people that are adults in this state, assuming, only adults are going to do marijuana. We know that's not the case. Lee Elci, it is your patriotic duty to do 28 joints a year. It is your patriotic duty. And the last thought I had when I went to bed, I said, my mother, as a young married woman, would take her waste fat to the butcher for bombs to drop on Nazis. I mean, we're off the rails, man. This is unbelievable. And you know something? This also dawned on me. This is chicken scratch math.
Right.
I am not the most intelligent person in the world. I am not devoted to this stuff. I am not a legislator. I do not have a staff. I'm just somebody sitting there at a table doing this kind of thing. This is probably why they want to tell you math is racist. 'Cause, numbers. I mean, numbers. Yeah, you sort of get wrapped up in them, but you don't get away from relationships. And the critical thing is, in order to increase revenue, there ain't no way. You got to increase impairment. And think of the burden. Really, these people are high.
It's that old adage, they don't pay attention to unintended consequences. Now, I gotta be honest with you. I'm a little torn because I'm sort of I'm libertarian by heart. I think I like people to make their own decisions and do their own thing, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of gets me into this weird spot when it comes to marijuana, drugs, etc. I feel like I don't care what you do. I just don't want to pay for it in the end. And I feel like now with marijuana being mainstream now, first of all, kids are going to get, there's no question kids are going to get. But you're also going to see, the hospitals either fill up or the rehab centers fill up. And eventually that price tag is going to circle back to all of us. We're going to have to pay for that somehow, right? We're going to have to pay for everybody.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's... I mean, believe me, I can get speechless very easily. But the thing is, we are going to, it is the typical Connecticut solution. The more committees, the same failed institutions that we throw millions of dollars after that never seem to do anything. And I mean, it's like, how, if you're in education, if you're in the legislature, how are you allowing this without laying down on the freaking freeway and saying, we're not going to damage our children anymore?
Right,
I mean,
right.
this is like nuts.
And
This is like insane. And not only that, but they want to pass it on numbers. These numbers just don't work.
Well, look
these
what
numbers do not get anywhere near the projections that they're talking about. Now, this is very clever, and I just want to mention this before we run out of time, because there's so much here. Notwithstanding the fact that the only real marijuana bank that's out there is connected to the governor. We've spoken about that. But they very cleverly said, well, the zoning here, towns don't want it. They don't have to have it. Well, ain't that cool? I'm knocking on the door of Greenwich or Westport or something like that, and I want to have a marijuana dispensary on, Greenwich Avenue or Main Street or wherever it is, this little, kind of little enclave there. And Greenwich says, well, I'm sorry, our zoning doesn't allow it. Get your popcorn. You are going to see the biggest zoning fight in the world imploding from within. It's like, well, right away, it's, we've got to change this community. I mean, it's like, and nobody saw this coming. I spent 2 hours with this thing, and it's like, what are they thinking about?
And no idea how to control, like, even the most smallest, like, things, like, for example, how do you test somebody who's been driving with an impaired driver? There's so many different variables to this that they didn't pay any attention to.
We're out of control now. We're going to add marijuana, but we're going to train officers to spot this. Well, just get on the road. You can spot it very easily.
Hey, look what happened in Colorado. They thought it was going to be a big boon. It ended up being nothing but a problem and a headache for those guys. So.
Well, and my last thought, Lee Elci, is any kind of legitimate business, like, for example, our New Haven office, there was an Ann Taylor dress shop, kind of like to our north, was there forever and ever and ever, lovely women's clothes. Now, they went out of business last year. That is now a marijuana dispensary. I have a lovely female client who likes to come into New Haven. When she's done, she's an art person. She likes to go to the museums. Right now, as, quote unquote, a single Caucasian woman, she's going to be walking right by a marijuana dispensary, and everything's going to be fine. She's not going to come. So you're driving, quote unquote, non-drug based businesses away from the cities, and somehow this is going to cause economic development. Lee Elci, these people are high.
Good way to end it, but we got pot. So what? I guess gambling, pot, prostitution maybe is next, and down the road, maybe this.